You're listening to Trek FM.
Hello and welcome to From There to Here, Trek FM's 50th anniversary rewatch, in which we look at all 729 episodes of Star Trek from beginning to end. I'm Mike from Stage 9, and today I'm joined by Davis. How's it going, Davis?
It's wonderful, sir. How are you tonight?
I'm doing okay. Today we're going to be talking about two episodes of Star Trek, one Voyager and one Deep Space Nine, Course Oblivion and Inter Arma Enim Silent Legis. So let's get started with Course Oblivion, which is a Voyager episode. And this is the one where Tom and B'Elanna get married, and then B'Elanna starts disintegrating, and she dies, and the crew of Voyager finds out that they're actually those replicated Voyager copies that were created in the episode Demon from last season. And hijinks ensue. So what did you think about Course Oblivion?
You know how we talked about the last rewatch that some Voyager episodes were just episodic and they didn't have really a lot of continuity? And it seems like this season it was good to actually see that a little bit more, where you had that continuity. And just to follow up from Demon to see it now was actually pretty cool, because not only do you get to see like what they have been doing over the course of a couple of years and whatnot, and they had a different, so many different little hints or different little things that were happening. For example, like in the personal log, Janeway talks about Ensign Harper having a baby. I was like, who the heck is Ensign Harper? And why have we never seen her before? And one of the other cool things was that we actually had the enhanced warp drive, which they said they were only 2 years from Earth.
Yeah, I know. I was like watching this, and I'm like, wait, they did that? I forgot. And then, Tom and B'Elanna get married, and also, I was reading online, Tom is a lieutenant, even though he had just been demoted in an earlier episode to ensign.
That's right.
So he, there were little clues throughout that something wasn't as it should be, and then they talk about like a couple of different missions which the Voyager crew never actually went on because it was a different crew,
And you have to wonder when they were, because I remember as they were going back trying to find what actually happened, what is causing all this hijinks, as you would say. What would have happened when Voyager was going that way? Did they take an alternate path where they never encountered these cultures that this Voyager had already encountered?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting to see how it all, played out. On the whole, I guess I wasn't a huge fan of the episode. I think I'm not too familiar with, the episode Demon from before it, but I mean, I think that it's a bold choice to make in terms of like basically spending an entire episode where you're following like a different crew, but I don't really know if it's that tremendously rewarding for us as viewers, because it's kind of like, well, in a sense, this doesn't matter to the overall narrative of our story, but I mean, I guess it kind of does. I don't know. But yeah, on the whole, I thought it was decent, but I wasn't a huge fan of it. What did you think?
I thought it was a decent episode, and I love the follow up to it. The only thing I thought a couple of things I thought was it was cool to actually see Janeway, even though she realized she was a replicant, she still had that moral compass about her, and she was going to act the same way as Janeway would act. And the other thing that I thought was really cool was they wanted to create a time capsule to see what else they have done. And by the end, it's bittersweet because the time capsule is destroyed, and by the time Voyager comes in contact with them, there's nothing left but a cloud.
Mm-hmm.
And you
Yeah.
have to wonder what would have happened if Voyager would have found that time capsule.
Yeah, yeah, it would be interesting. Yeah, but it is kind of sad how they, they're like, we just want someone to remember me. It's like the guys, the Half-Life boys from Mad Max Fury Road, where they're like, witness me. That's all they want, and no one does. It's kind of sad. It's like they live in a little bubble of their own making. Well, I guess not their own making, but yeah. I don't know. It's some interesting stuff going on in it, but at the same time, I don't know. I have trouble connecting with it emotionally, at least before we get to the end. Should be noted that this episode was co-written by Bryan Fuller, so there's that. But yeah. All right. Well, should we move on to our next episode for today?
Let's do it.
It's the Deep Space Nine episode, Inter Arma Enim Silent Legis, if I'm pronouncing that right. I don't know if I am. So this is the episode where Bashir is going to a conference with some Romulans, where he's going to be giving a couple of lectures on Ketracel White and various other things. And before he leaves, he's paid a visit by Sloan from Section 31, who says, hey, as long as you're there, why don't you help us find out some information about this guy we want to kill? And Bashir's like, that doesn't seem like a good idea, but he's kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place and has to go along with this and sort of play both sides against each other and hope not to get killed and hope not to become too heavily involved in a political assassination at the same time. So, yeah, what did you think about Inter Arma Enim Silent Legis?
Well, if I could ever get the name correct, I would think that would be an awesome day. But it was a good episode. I mean, Section 31 and Bashir are intertwined for the past couple of years now, and so seeing Sloan again, it was actually pretty cool. And also, I just loved it how Admiral Ross had his own flagship, which is the Bellerophon, and it was another Intrepid class vessel, which I thought it was just actually pretty cool with that. And I thought it was very interesting, a little bit of a plot twist in the story when Bashir is looking for help from Admiral Ross. He all of a sudden undergoes a brain aneurysm.
Yep. The using the Bellerophon, as having it be the same class as Voyager and everything like that, it's cool because it sort of has that continuity there, and it's also cool because it's like, oh look, there's some Deep Space Nine people on Voyager. It's just like weird, like, oh, look at that, crossing the streams kind of thing. Like it's so bizarre to see what they look like when they're on that ship. But obviously, from a production standpoint, it makes a lot of sense too, because you save money on sets and everything like that, and on models or whatever it is that they're using. So that was definitely cool. Having Ross be part of, or at least in cahoots with Section 31 in this particular instance, I think was interesting because it does bring up a lot of, sort of thought-provoking gray area that Deep Space Nine is sort of known for, where it's like, okay, Ross, under normal circumstances, would definitely be opposed to Section 31. He's not someone who would associate with them under normal circumstances, but these aren't normal circumstances. It's war, and he's like, you know what? This is something that we have to do for the greater good. And, it brings up a lot of questions and moral dilemmas, and I think that that's really cool,
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And the translation, I remember at the very end, was in times of war, the law falls silent, which you have to say the end justifies the means, but does it really help the moral compass of someone? I mean, I think it gave Bashir a time to really reflect and being, this isn't right.
Yeah. And this is another instance where Deep Space Nine really kind of saw where things were going. I mean, not that, I mean, obviously this is, a tale as old as time, but that doesn't change the fact that it became much, much, much more relevant just, 2 years later in post 9/11 America, where, this thing, it happened, I mean, they basically said, okay, let's just start doing what we need to do in order to take down terrorists and kind of, not really care about the justice system and whatnot. And we're still feeling those effects today, which is crazy, which is why it's such an interesting, dilemma, because it's like, okay, yes, maybe Ross is right, maybe inter Arma Enim silent legis. But, what are you giving up when you do that? Not just now, but how do you make inter Arma Enim loud legis further down the road? You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I mean, the ramifications, you do actually see some of the ramifications in the Deep Space Nine relaunch, which I will not spoil. That's for another time. But I thought there was some really cool points to the story. And I don't know if you know some of the trivia, but this was the first time they actually used the current dress uniform that was in Insurrection.
Oh.
Yeah.
So yeah, because Insurrection would have just been released, right? So
Yes. It was released in 98, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. So they're like, oh, good, we have these things sitting around. We can use these. That's that's cool.
And also the Bellerophon was named after not only the Greek hero, but it was also named after the starship from Forbidden Planet that was destroyed.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yes.
Oh, I didn't know that. See, what I always think of is Mission Impossible 2, which, written by the same guy. Well, the first draft was written by Ron Moore and Brandon Braga, so maybe there's the connection there. But
could be.
In that, at the beginning, they're like, whenever you create a hero, every villain needs a hero. We created the villain Chimera, so to counter that, we created the hero Bellerophon. Yeah. Anyway, whatever. So, all right. Well, I guess that pretty much wraps up Course Oblivion and Inter Arma Enim Silent Legis, which, for the record, I've never not said that title without looking at a piece of paper and reading it, word for word, because otherwise I would never be able to remember it either. But yeah, Davis, so where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me at Twitter at Davis Grayson, or you can find me in the Babel Conference. I am over there quite a bit. And I'm also on the Phantom Podcast Network. I'm one of the hosts of Couch Potato Theater, where we actually talk about classic movies where you have it on Blu-ray or DVD, but you see it on TV and you're not getting up, you're going to watch it right then and there. So
fantastic. And you can find me right here on Trek FM doing Stage 9, where we talk about the people who make Star Trek. And you can also find me on Twitter at Mumbles3K. Oh, and you can find me on the Nerd Party doing Great Shot Kid, which is Stage 9 but for Star Wars. All right, so that wraps up today, but we will be back tomorrow to talk about 2 episodes of Voyager, The Fight and Think Tank.